أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome everyone to the second week of our discussion on sincerity. Again, inshallah, we will cover the 20th Flash from the Flashes book in the from the Risale-i Nur Collection. So, inshallah, let me quickly summarize what we are doing, right? I mean, sincerity in the Risale-i Nur Collection basically takes place in two of the flashes, 20th and 21st Flash. And the 20th Flash, again, we mentioned these briefly last week, but just wanted to put it out. You know, there are 7 reasons that are explained in 20th Flash, and you'll see I'll repeat the question that is in the beginning so that we have the you know, context for the for the audience who is joining us for the first time this week. But basically, within each of those 7 reasons, there are, I think, 2 points that are made in those. Like, one is why current disunity among the believers is not really a sign of weakness in fundamentals or the religion itself, basically reaffirming our belief and that it is not a fundamental fault that we are in disunity, but more about personal or sincerity related faults that we have that lead us to these state. And the second, of course, as remedies. Second part of each reason mentions these remedies, basically, where talking about the what we need to do to unite in this age. And inshallah, you know, we will discuss today with, again, Dr. Turner, and also this week, Mustafa Polat from Turkey will join us. And inshallah, I'll keep moderating this session as well. Okay, so again, I'll begin with the beginning part, and inshallah, since we covered the first reason last week, we will start from the second reason after that. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna anzalna ilayka al-kitaba bil-haqqi fa'budillaha mukhlisan lahuddin ala lillahi ad-dinul khalis. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, verily we sent the book down to you in truth, haqq. So worship God in sincerity, for God is sincerely practiced religion. And there's a hadith that accompanies this. هلك الناس إلا العالمون وهلك العالمون إلا العاملون وهلك العاملون إلا المخلصون والمخلصون على خطر عظيم. All men will perish except the scholars, and all scholars will perish except those who act in accordance with their knowledge, and all of them will perish except the sincere, mukhlis. And even the sincere are in great danger. So we discussed at some length last week about what we understand about these, but I have put it here so that we have the context. And again, I'll inshallah repeat the question as well. That was from the beginning of the first reason, but inshallah then I'll start reading the second reason. The above verse and hadith demonstrate together how important a principle of Islam is sincerity. An important and awesome question. Why is it that while the worldly, and the neglectful, and even the misguided and hypocrites cooperate without rivalry, the people of religion, the religious scholars, and those who follow the Sufi path oppose each other in rivalry, although they are the people of truth and concord? Agreement belongs in reality to the people of concord and dispute to the hypocrites. How is it that these two have changed places? The answer: we will set forth 7 of the extremely numerous causes of this painful, disgraceful, and awesome situation, one that causes the zealous to weep. Inshallah, this was the question, and I'll start from the second cause. Second cause, the agreement among the people of misguidance is on account of their abasement, and the dispute among the people of guidance is on account of their dignity. That is to say, that the people of neglect, those misguided ones sunk in worldly concerns, are weak and abased because they do not rely on truth and reality. On account of their abasement, they need to augment their strength, and because of this need, they wholeheartedly embrace the aid and cooperation of others. Even though the path they follow is misguidance, they preserve their agreement. It is as if they were making their wrongdoing into a form of rightfulness, their misguidance into a form of sincerity, their irreligion into a form of bigotry, ta'assub. They unite in hypocrisy and thus attain success. For genuine sincerity, even for the sake of evil, cannot fail to yield results. And whatever man seeks with sincerity, Allah will grant him it. And there's a footnote here. Yes, man talaba wajadda wajada. Whoever seeks earnestly shall find is a rule of truth. Its scope is comprehensive and includes the matter under discussion. But as for the people of guidance and religion, the religious scholars and those who follow the Sufi path, since they rely upon truth and reality, and each of them on the road of truth thinks only of his sustainer and trust in his succor, they derive dignity from their belief. When they feel weakness, they turn not toward fellow humans, but toward Allah and seek help from Him. On account of difference in outlook, they feel no real need for the aid of the one whose outlook apparently opposes their own, and see no need for agreement and unity. Indeed, if obstinacy and egoism are present, one will imagine himself to be right and the other to be wrong. Discord and rivalry take the place of concord and love. Thus, sincerity is chased away and its function disrupted. Now, the only remedy for the critical consequences of this awesome state consists of 9 commands. 1. To act positively, that is, out of love for one's own outlook, not letting enmity or critique for other outlooks to interfere in one's thoughts or knowledge, or in any way concerning oneself with them. 2. To unite within the fold of Islam, irrespective of particular outlook, remembering those numerous ties of unity that evoke love, brotherhood, and concord. 3. To adopt the just rule of conduct that the follower of any right outlook has the right to say, my outlook is true or the best, but not that my outlook alone is true or that my outlook alone is good, thus implying the falsity and repugnance of all other outlooks. 4. To consider that union with people of truth is a cause of divine succor and the high dignity of religion. 5. To realize that the individual resistance of the most powerful person against the attacks through its genius of the mighty collective force of the people of misguidance and falsehood, which arises from their solidarity, will inevitably be defeated, an individual will inevitably be defeated, and through the union of the people of truth, to create a joint and collective force also in order to preserve justice and right in the face of that fearsome collective force of misguidance. 6. In order to preserve the truth from the assaults of falsehood. 7. To abandon the self and its egoism. 8. And give up the mistaken concept of self-pride. 9. And cease from all insignificant feelings aroused by rivalry. And cease from all the insignificant feelings aroused by rivalry. If this ninefold rule is adhered to, sincerity will be preserved and its function perfectly performed. And finally, there's a footnote here. It is even recorded in authentic traditions of the Prophet ﷺ that at the end of time, the truly pious among the Christians will unite with the people of the Quran and fight their common enemy, irreligion. And at this time too, the people of religion and truth need to unite sincerely, not only with their own brothers and fellow believers, but also with the truly pious and spiritual ones among the Christians, temporarily refraining from the discussion and debate of points of difference in order to combat their joint enemy, aggressive atheism. So this was the second cause, the whole thing. I wanted to read the whole thing because, inshallah, we can pull the pull in from the remedies as well when we are discussing the first part. And inshallah, we can start, I think, with maybe briefly discuss this weakness or this misconception of self-pride. I guess this is basically the point here. I guess there is this abasement versus pride. If there is no pride, why really we have that feeling of not needing each other, but of course, and then we will inshallah connect that to how we can fix that, our misunderstanding of the pride in this context, I guess, shall be fixed. So, Colin Abi, would you like to start? And since you were also here last week, maybe if we need to make a connection to last week of some sort.
Bismillah. Yeah, it seems at first glance that we are confronted here by a complete inversion of values. It seems that, the people of neglect, those who are misguided, those who are immersed in the world, who are chasing the world, who are chasing transient things, clearly because they are trying to do the impossible. You can't do the impossible on your own. You can actually make it more likely or more feasible if you join up with others. And so out of pure necessity, you will unite, because if you don't, you can't get anywhere. Because you don't have the truth to support you. You don't have reality as your backdrop, as your background. And therefore, you have to have recourse to any kind of strategies that will work. And people in this situation are well aware of their weakness. They don't like to think about their weakness. And in order to, in order to obviate feelings of weakness and to get rid of feelings of weakness, they have to make alliances. And they have to depend on the strength of their interdependence and their interconnections. To admit one's weakness, to admit one's existential poverty is anathema to an unbeliever, because it is too reminiscent. It reminds the unbeliever too much of their own transience and of their own animality, of their own temporality. So they have to unite, even if they don't enjoy uniting. They have to do it, and they have to do it, and they are sincere about uniting, because there are goals to be had in this world. They don't have a hereafter. They don't have a world yet to come, which they can see as their reward. They have to gain their rewards from this world, and therefore they have to augment their strength. They have to increase their own abilities by wholeheartedly making alliances with others, strategizing, plotting, and planning. And they do this very successfully. We've seen how they do it. We've seen for centuries now how the West has done it, for example. Ever since the past 500 years, really, of this gradual secularization and desacralization of the universe, we've seen that as God and faith have been displaced and banished, then in the place of God and faith, there is the human spirit. And this is why they laud the human spirit and say how great humanity is. Humanism, of course, is very important. Existentialism, of course, is a key word. So is atheism, so is materialism. And all of these things actually denote weakness, absolute weakness. And they realize this. They truly realize their weakness. They don't like it, and they try to obfuscate it, they try to hide it. And they do that very successfully by this appearance of power. And they are triumphant. We see it. We see it in the world. Who is leading? In all fields of science and technology, economically, financially, we see that unbelief is reigning.
And I guess this last sentence from that point of view is interesting, right? It's still Allah grants their wishes because they wanted sincerely, right? For genuine sincerity, even for the sake of evil, cannot fail to yield results, and whatever man seeks with sincerity, Allah will grant him it. So it's almost
This
like,
is amazing, isn't it? Isn't this an
yeah,
amazing sentence to come from a theologian?
yeah,
You know, sincerity, even if it's for something evil, even if it's for something pernicious and nefarious, will succeed. Because if you have recourse to causes, this is Allah's sunnah, you know. He's put it there for us to have recourse to. And they have recourse to causes very, very expertly, as we see.
yeah. Mustafa abi, I would like to turn to you about this as well. Maybe, you know, the both for the, you know, agreement on the misguidance, but also like disagreement and this notion of you know, deriving dignity from belief, and you know, there is that dignity, but that it seems like it is somewhat misplaced as well, because again, it might lead to not uniting with others. Um, would you like to talk some about these?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, okay, that's good. First of all, we also sometimes confuse dignity. We may misunderstand for Muslims sometimes. Let's talk about us as Muslims. How do we understand dignity? What is the source of dignity? It should be iman and relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But on, you know, in daily behaviors, conducts, or dealing with other people, or forming organizations, and I don't know, looking at others and dealing with others, other people, people outside of our community, people outside of our religion. How should we understand dignity? We shouldn't confuse dignity with pride, I guess, if it is the right way to put it. And how should we really understand? Another important, I think, important point is that we may lose our motivation sometimes, because our the results of our actions will come, and we do things in a certain way, and our results are in akhirah, inshallah. We may not expect something in this world. We are not be aiming for this world. So maybe but in daily lives, we get also distracted with worldly things. All right, and even though we sincerely in our heart believe that we would receive our, results of our actions in akhirah, we get confused with the worldly things, and our intentions may change over, our actions. So this changes this actually disrupts our sincerity, and Allah punishes us for that, our deviation from sincerity to other ways. So that's one of the reasons why we fail. So Allah punishes us for our losing, because it's so important for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we only aim for Him, right? But their aim, the worldly people or atheists or whatever we call them, not dignified people, their aim is this world, and their motivation is more kind of clear, even though it's very transient thing, and they're gonna lose it pretty much very soon. But it's, I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but it's easy for them to be motivated and focused, because they get immediate results.
And there's, I guess, that example.
And they will be, they will lose everything what they have in akhirah.
Yeah.
What's
So
that?
there was that example that I remember, like, if someone pays the price of a diamond to a piece of glass. I mean, it is both madness, of course, but it is also they will for sure buy it. I mean,
Yeah, that's what they ask for.
yes, it's almost like that.
Yeah.
And other thing that I've noticed here is that is this pride, right? And that's a great point. Like we are kind of mixing up dignity with pride, and when we when and even like obstinacy, egoism in these cases, I guess, right? If and I guess, as you said, if our motivation, if our end goal is is not clearly afterlife, is not clearly Allah's pleasure, which was also like touched upon right in the first cause about like we should not expect any results in this world. Our only aim should be Allah's pleasure. So it's interesting that, but those like bits and pieces of like dignity, it's like almost gets misinterpreted, as you said, from instead of dignity, we have pride, obstinacy, egoism, but we try to frame them, I guess, as dignity to justify maybe, but those are like immediate punishment in some way, I guess, by Allah to us. So thank you. So I would like to go to the remedies as well, so that we have time to also cover the third cause today. Is that and these are, like, each one of these are probably important enough to spend some time in. One I would like to spend some time, especially in the first one, because it is also connected to some others. Is that to acting positively? That is like a theme also in Risale-i Nur, I guess. In Turkish, it is musbet hareket, right? It is something that is acting just out of love of for one's own outlook, and not think about, be busy about others, because if you believe in something to be right, you should just do it, and you should not try to get power or empowered by vilifying others around that. So and also, of course, about these two, maybe Kona, we can start with this, like, how should we understand this, musbet hareket, acting positively, and like how not doing that damage. Because we are like working in our path. We are not really busying ourselves, but that's not always like a unity. But what does it do for us? Like, why is it a good thing to? Because like other outlooks might not be as great. Like, what happens when we discard them, or when we, I guess, I wouldn't want to say vilify, but that's what's happening, I guess, like rejecting other thoughts altogether. What are some effects of it?
I think maybe before we look at that, I think we should go back to the second paragraph again,
Sure.
where it talks about the people of guidance and religion. People of guidance and religion have a belief. They have something positive, whereas the people of unbelief are united around negativity. So they all have different reasons for coming together. They have different reasons. They have different reasons, first of all, for not believing, and therefore there's nothing central that they can own as a collective, if that makes sense. Whereas people of guidance and religion, they have something central outside of themselves that is positive, in other words, belief in God, that they can all own. People who are unbelievers, there is no real bigotry over what they own because they don't own anything. There is no central pillar to their unbelief. I don't know whether this makes sense, but this is how I see that they're able to unite very easily. They're able to unite easily because they don't really have to forfeit anything. They don't really have to call their own belief into question because they don't have a belief. All they know is that they are weak and they need to unite. But we as believers, each one of us claims to believe in exactly the same thing as the next person, as the other believers. But because human beings tend to be proud, then I have something about which I can be inordinately proud, and that is my belief. And I believe in a certain way, I believe in a particular way. And that belief for me takes on the color of ownership. I own my belief. So we have something to own. I own my understanding of how I see Allah. I own my belief. I own my belief in Allah. And I consider my belief, obviously, to be superior to the belief of others. Otherwise, I wouldn't believe in this way. So I am what Nursi goes on to say, able to say that my way is the best way. But I have to say my way is not the only way. But we don't say that. We say, usually, my way is the best way, and other people's ways are mistakes. Now, can we see here why unbelievers don't have that problem? Because they all disbelieve anyway, all for very, very different reasons. So they don't have this central bone of contention around which they can gather and dispute. They've got nothing to dispute, really. But we have something to dispute, and we dispute the how can I say, the purity of the belief of others. We believe that our belief is much better than others. Otherwise, we wouldn't believe in the way that we do, and that is problematic. Also, we don't understand Tawheed properly. We think that if you trust in Allah, you don't have to trust in anyone else. Trust only in Allah. Well, actually, if we say we trust in Allah and trust in no one else, that means we're seeing double, right? We're seeing double. We're seeing that there is an Allah in whom we trust and that there are others in whom we trust. No, that's not the case. To trust in others for the sake of Allah is trusting in Allah. Because we are living in a causal realm and we have to have recourse to causes. Now, there's a thin line between having recourse to causes and actually worshipping causes. There's a thin line in knowing that when I make a cup of coffee, nothing that happens in that process is going to result in that cup of coffee, because causes cannot create. But at the same time, I cannot sit down and just hope that the coffee is going to come to me. I have to have recourse to causes. So we are caught in a dilemma. We have to have recourse to causes, but at the same time, we are commanded not to believe in them. So we have two things there. One is that central pillar of belief which we own as individuals, and the second is this ambivalence that we have towards causes and the issue of Tawheed. And all of these militate against our unity. These are the things which really work against us and stop us from uniting. Because first of all, why should I unite with X? He is, for example, he is an Ash'ari, I am a Maturidi. I can't unite. How can I unite with him unless he becomes a Maturidi? You see? And we are very serious about this, even though we don't articulate it as such, because these are things which we want to take us to heaven. So we're very, very serious about them, and we exert serious ownership over them. And then the second thing is the issue of causes. And really, if we don't understand causality, we are always going to be failures in this respect. So we have all these things that militate against us. So ours is a difficult task, really. We don't see any need for agreement and unity. And if we are obstinate and egoistic, as Ustad is saying, then we will imagine ourselves to be right and the others to be wrong. And if our nafs is working in our favor, in nafsul amara is working in our favor, then there will just be discord and rivalry. Ustad, his psychoanalytical prowess is really without peer. He knows human beings inside out.
Yeah, indeed, it is very interesting, and you also pointed out like the fact that like the trusting in others is actually trusting Allah, because if you believe in Allah, you know that his command is that, and there's probably, and here I guess it also reminds me of this. Where was that? The consider that union with the people of truth is a cause of divine succor and the high dignity of religion. So actually, it is for Allah's sake that we have to trust and work with others in the service of religion, and that in a way that should I guess support our belief. So Alhamdulillah, this is actually a great point, and thank you for opening up these analyses of the human psyche and this support example is really great. I would like to read a bit of these comments because I think there was a torrent of ideas on the chat, so I don't want to miss them. So starting with Harun Abi's similar analysis exists comparing women organizations being stronger than men ones, and I think it'll come actually later, probably in the following weeks. We can cover this probably in the 5th cause. Said Nursi also is capturing that. And Mehmet commented, trying to see God behind everything makes me powerful enough to be thankful for it, alhamdulillah. And I think that is about how sincerity, even in unbelief, can be successful because Allah will grant success. And Fatabi put some part that is reminding him of this thing is, this part reminds me of another section in Risale, both truth will prevail and its consequences are intended. Friend, one time a questioner asked, since truth will prevail is the truth, why have the infidel prevailed over the Muslim and force over right? I replied, consider these 4 points and your difficulty will be resolved. The first point is this: not every means of every truth has to be true. Similarly, not every means of every falsehood has to be false. This result emerges: a means which is false prevails over a true means, in which case a truth is overcome by a falsehood. It occurs temporarily and indirectly, not essentially or permanently. However, finally, it is always still the truth's. Force possesses a truth. There is an underlying meaning in its creation. The second point is this: while it is obligatory that all attributes of all Muslims are Muslim, outwardly it is not always thus. Similarly, not all the attributes of all infidels have to be infidel and to arise from their unbelief. So too, all the attributes of all sinners do not always have to be sinful and to have arisen from their sinfulness. This means an infidel's Muslim attribute prevails over a Muslim's unlawful attribute. Indirectly, the infidel prevails over him. This is from the words.
That's an amazing, sorry to jump in there, that's an amazing quote that he brought there, that he's brought there, because we tend to see things in black and white.
Exactly.
We tend to see that belief is all one monolith and that unbelief is all one monolith, but it's not. We spoke last week about how Western civilization is a mix of materialism and the different political currents, but also Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah.
So it's a mix. So we can't say that it's all one or all the other.
Yeah. Yeah, and even for human beings, I guess, Ustad Nursi mentions in the part about ukhuwa, but even when explaining right, one cannot be burdened by the burden of others. Within a human being, there are attributes that are better, that are good.
Yeah.
So even within a human being, I think seeing that those units is great. Hussein Abi saying court, he mentioned not to be busy with others' wrongdoings, mistakes, faults. I guess small correction to this translation. I myself tried some for the first point here, but I believe it had missed some points in the original translation, so I tried to take a crack at it actually myself last night. So he's maybe correcting that. Even Mehmet from Mehmet Su, even feelings that I feel or experience do not belong to me. God lets us feel or experience. And Harun Abi says, I agree. If we have nothing to lose, all alternatives are equally distant to gain benefit. Why not just get together and try? Hadith mentions that if you don't thank to your peers, you will not be thanking Allah. So I guess he points out how unity is the reason for success. And Sayyidina says, good point. Uniformity is not unity. Unity in diversity is what we seek. And Harun Abi says, diversity statement is in action. So, but this is an important point, I guess, like accepting our differences, but underscoring or emphasizing our points of unity, I think, is the key here. And I'll also connect it to this footnote, I guess, right? Just that Nursi, within a Muslim society, he brings this up, like even, because as the enemy in this case, irreligiousness is so powerful that, not only sincerity or unity with the Muslim fellow Muslims, but even with some Christians, through pious Christians who temporarily refraining from discussion and debate of points of difference to combat their joint enemy, aggressive atheism. So this is even, I think, could be almost it could be debated even in some circles, I imagine. But this is the extent I think this goes, right? I think, and is it because the enemy in this case, atheism, is so big that we have to be extra careful about this? And maybe some sort of I'll ask for some sort of like a summary of what you understand from all these like 9 points. I'll probably start with Mustafa because I haven't let him speak for a while. Mustafa abi?
Yes. Yeah, I was trying to, I was thinking about this footnote actually. The interesting thing is that Ustad mentions, Ustad puts it in the way that as if the action for a unity or some sort of working together comes from the Christians to the Muslims. Am I thinking the right way?
I mean, the
Christians
hadith,
will unite with the people of the Quran.
Yeah, hadith, I
Meaning,
guess it's yeah, correct. I think it is coming from probably from the hadith as well, right? I mean, the hadith
yeah,
is about like Isa alayhi salam will pray behind Mehdi. So I think from that perspective, maybe Christians will be the ones in the end of time to unite with the people of Quran. I think so that they will seek unity, I guess.
yeah,
Is that
yeah.
what you? Okay, yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. So I mean, this is in recent days, this is a highly debated topic. What type of relationship can we talk about between Christians and Muslims? If you ask people these days in Turkey or anywhere in the world, what kind of cooperation or whatever you want to call it could exist or could take place between Muslims or non-Muslims, or Muslims and Christians. And when a Muslim says these days, especially something positive about cooperating with Christians, you may get false flags, from a lot of your fellow believers, Muslims. So this is really interesting. I'm trying to understand Ustad's point of view. Relying on the Hadith itself. This is a prophecy that's coming from Prophet Muhammad and Ustad expands upon it, right? And this will happen somehow in some way, and this is hadith and the source is authentic, so we believe that somehow something will happen. to beat, to unite against atheism and irreligion. And Ustad says, that will be the Christians first to want to because they are the weak ones, I suppose, in terms of belief. Maybe they might be stronger in terms of worldly things in those days, if it is tomorrow or next year or next century, who knows. But the Muslims are the stronger side in terms of belief, and we have the answers to questions, and we have the strength to cope with or challenge or defeat irreligion, as Ustad points it out in all over Risale-i Nur. So I mean, is there a particular especially we as Muslims, that we have an understanding of the Western context, we have some familiarity, and most of us live in the West. Is there a particular mission we should have, or is there should we be awaiting something in particular that we don't know, right? We don't have many answers to it, I guess.
One thought I have, and then I will also probably ask Konabi the same, but or is this should we understand this in another words, I guess, should we understand this as something that we should do on the side right now, versus first we make sure we unite within the Muslim community, and eventually this will also be there. So that is definitely a good question. Yeah,
I don't think we can unite with Christians if we're not united with each other, because the whole principle of unity, the principle of unity is to put aside your differences temporarily. But we don't do that with other Muslims. We actually accentuate the differences. We seek out the differences. As soon as someone speaks with me, not just me, but lots of people that I know, are you Shia or Sunni? It's the first question. So there's no way that we can unite with people like that. If that is their first point of interest, then they're not interested in unity. They're interested in pushing their own ownership of whatever they claim to believe in. And there's no way that they can unite with Christians, because they will try to dominate them and belittle them. So it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll maybe read through this 9 remedies again, and I would like to also read from the third cause, because I really would like to finish the whole chapter in the next few weeks, and the only way to do that is to go through at least more than one cause per week. So I'll read through this, and then I'll read through, inshallah, the third cause as well, and we can comment on that.
Before you do, when you get to number 6, you'll see that it's not really complete. It says, in order to preserve truth from the assaults of falsehood. Is that really, it seems as though this something should come after it?
These 6 through 9 are actually connected in Turkish as well. And one commentary that I have seen is that it's because Said Nursi wanted us to think about all of these, right? I mean, these are
okay, if there's a reason for it, then I don't have an issue.
It is like that in the original as well. 6 through 9 is like one sentence, basically. Like this. But yeah, you can feel free to comment about that too when we after I read through it once, inshallah. So the 9 remedies, or 9 commands, I would say. To act positively, 1 is to act positively, that is out of love for one's own outlook, not letting enmity or critique for other outlooks interfere in one's thoughts or knowledge, or in any way concerning oneself with them. 2, to unite within the fold of Islam, irrespective of particular outlook, remembering those numerous ties of unity that evoke love, brotherhood, and concord. 3, to adopt the just rule of conduct that the follower of any right outlook has the right to say, my outlook is true or the best, but not that my outlook alone is true, or that my outlook alone is good, thus implying the falsity or repugnance of all other outlooks. 4. To consider that union with the people of truth is a cause of divine succor and the high dignity of religion. 5. To realize that the individual resistance of the most powerful person against the attacks through its genius of the mighty collective force of the people of misguidance and falsehood, which arises from their solidarity, will inevitably be defeated. The individual resistance of any powerful person will inevitably be defeated. And through the union of the people of truth, to create a joint and collective force also in order to preserve justice and right in the face of that fearsome collective force of misguidance. 6. In order to preserve truth from the assaults of falsehood. 7. To abandon the self and its egoism. 8. And give up the mistaken concept of self-pride. 9. And cease from all insignificant feelings aroused by rivalry. If this ninefold rule is adhered to, sincerity will be preserved and its function perfectly performed. Inshallah, I'll read also the third cause so that inshallah we will, when we comment, we can comment on both sides. Third cause, disagreement among the people of truth does not arise from lack of zeal and aspiration, nor does union among the people of misguidance arise from loftiness of aspiration. That which impels the people of guidance to the misuse of their high aspiration, and hence to disagreement and rivalry, is the desire for heavenly reward that is counted as a praiseworthy quality in respect of the hereafter, and extreme eagerness with respect to duties pertaining to the hereafter, thinking to oneself, let me gain this reward, let me guide these people, let them listen to me. He takes up a position of rivalry towards the true brother who faces him and who stands in real need of his love, assistance, brotherhood, and aid, saying to oneself, why are my pupils going to him? Why don't I have as many pupils as him? He falls prey to egoism, inclines to the chronic disease of ambition, loses all sincerity, and opens the door to hypocrisy. The cure for this error, this wound, this awesome sickness of the spirit, is the principle that God's pleasure is won by sincerity alone, and not by a large following or great success. For these latter are a function of God's will. They cannot be demanded, although they are sometimes given. Sometimes a single word will result in someone's salvation and hence the pleasure of God. Quantity should not receive too much attention, for sometimes to guide one man to the truth may be as pleasing to God as guiding 1,000. Moreover, sincerity and adherence to the truth require that one should desire the Muslims to benefit from anyone at any place they can. To think, let them take lessons from me so that I gain the reward, is a trick of the soul and the ego. O man greedy for reward in the hereafter and the performance of these entitling you to that reward. Entitling you to that reward. There have been certain prophets, messengers, who had only a limited following, but received the infinite reward of the sacred duty of prophethood. The true achievement lies then not in gaining a vast following, but in gaining God's pleasure. What do you imagine yourself to be that saying, let everyone listen to me? You forget your function and interfere in what is strictly Allah's concern. To gain acceptance for you and to have people gather around you is Allah's concern. So look to your own duty and concern and do not meddle with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's concerns. Moreover, and this is the last page here, moreover, it is not only humans who earn reward for those who hear and speak the truth. The sentient and spiritual beings of God and his angels have filled the universe and adorned its every part. If you want plentiful reward, take sincerity as your foundation and think only of Allah's pleasure. then every syllable of the blessed words that issue forth from your mouth will be brought to life by your sincerity and truthful intention, and going to the ears of innumerable sentient beings. They will illuminate them and earn your reward. For when, for example, you say, Alhamdulillah, praise and thanks be to Allah, millions of these words, great and small, are written on the page of the air by God's leave. Since the all-wise inscriber did nothing prodigally or in vain, he created innumerable ears, as many as were needed to hear those multiple blessed words. If those words are brought to life in the air by sincerity and truthful intent, they will enter the ears of the spirit beings like some tasty fruit in the mouth. But if Allah's pleasure and sincerity do not bring those words to life, they will not be heard, and reward will be had only for the single utterance made by the mouth. Pay good attention to this, you Quran reciters who are sad that your voices are not more beautiful and that more people do not listen to you. This was also a nice large section, but I think it is also a relatively different topic in terms of this ego and like how we should and this trick I think of the ego um about like gaining a following and assuming that it is, you know, by convincing or talking to more people or by having our words listened to more people, it is by definition means more reward, right? Maybe it is, should we think of it as like maybe a materialist trap that we might go into this age? I don't know. Maybe I'll let Kulnabi talk about this first.
I think we went through the 9 points before too quickly.
Yeah.
We didn't discuss them actually at all. So,
All right. So
you
yeah,
know,
feel free to chime in there.
so you know, these things really are really crucial. To act positively out of love for one's own outlook, and not letting enmity or critique for other outlooks interfere in one's thoughts or knowledge. In other words, we have to not concern ourselves with the outlooks of others. We have to put our criticisms to the side temporarily. How do we do this? It's very difficult to do that, but we have to do it, you know, because we have to unite with people on the things that we can unite with. So if you and I can unite on 17 out of 20 things, and there are 3 things that I can't unite with you, I shouldn't let those 3 things overshadow the 17 positive points. And Ustad gives an example of, you know, 20 people on a ship.
Yeah.
You know this example better than I do. If there are 19 innocent people and 1 murderer, you can't, no one would say that you can sink that ship in order to punish the murderer, because you would be killing 19 people.
Yeah.
Similarly, if there are 19 murderers and 1 innocent person, you still can't sink that ship. So, for example, if you and I have 18 points or 19 points of disagreement, say theological disagreement, and 1 point of unity, then that is the point that we should concentrate on. So I should act because I love my own outlook, and I shouldn't think that, you know, you have all of these points that I can't unite with you, but I should think of the point that I can unite with you on. And that should be the basis for our relationship. And the rest has to be put aside. So we have to do this as a community, and we don't do it. But this is crucial. And then that bleeds into number 2. Unite within the fold of Islam, irrespective of particular outlooks, and then remember everything that you know, brings us together rather than cleaves us apart. So those first 2, it's about not seeing the differences in other people, and not considering them to be of importance, putting them aside. Do we do that? No. How do we do that? That's what we should be thinking about. I'd like to hear what Mustafa has to say on
I
these.
just want to ask the question. The word outlook, I wasn't aware that it has this usage. So the original it says meslek is the way we go do things, right? Or our way. So outlook also means in this context is our way of doing things, or our, right? Is that how it
Is the original
translates?
Maslak? Is Maslak the original?
Yes, meslek.
Meslek, yeah.
Outlook is slightly different to Maslak, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So it's path, isn't it? Really, Maslak is the
Yeah,
path. That
path.
we said.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think maybe I don't know about the translation, but other paths we can substitute it. Yeah.
Any comments, Mustafa, about the content?
Yeah. I mean, these principles, all of them are really important, and it's hard to implement in daily lives. All of them are golden principles, right? If you really understand them truly. And this is an ongoing fight with our own nafs, first of all, for ourselves. And it's also a fight for, as a community, you know, when we mention meslek, a path, you know, also consists of certain people or community, we can say, because we also make those, you know, as I mentioned earlier, we are like us and the other, right? We have make the differentiation. This is us and these are the other. That might be, you know, the Risale-i Nur community, and the others, it might be the Hanefis and the others, and it might be the Maturidis and the others, and whatever you want to call, or Muslims and the others, depending on the context. But these are all applicable. It should be applied to all those things, and we have to, you know, just one point itself, we can talk about it an hour. You know, how to act positively is you know, is difficult. In their lives, we lose this. You know, even one disagreement can cause us to not unite, and, you know, to go to our corners and our ways, and, you know, do whatever we want to do it. And it's intricate. It's complicated. You know, we think about unity, that we need that unity, but our source and our own goal and our main principle is to be adhere to the values of Islam and Allah. And if it is at the expense of losing some followers, as we start mentioning the third principle, right? At the expense of losing some followers, let be it. Let be it. You know, right? You should lose those followers, because our main goal is not making people pleased. Our main goal is to make Allah pleased. So there is this balance, I guess. Maybe we want to call it a balance. But these principles are not easy to implement in their lives. That's why we maybe just one point we can talk about, you know, all day long.
I think maybe we haven't talked about them at all, really. I think that's the problem. You know, generally as a community, I don't mean within the Nur community, because we should be reading these every fortnight, you know, and it doesn't, I don't think it literally means every 2 weeks, but maybe it does. I don't know. I haven't read this every fortnight for the last 40 years. I haven't. Maybe 2 or 3 times
Specifically
in a
for the
year.
21st Flash is more about that, but
Yeah, but I mean the whole issue.
Yeah.
This is a crucial issue for us, because we are social beings. We have to live with each other, and if we want to live with each other just on our own terms, it's never going to happen. We have to sacrifice something. So we have to sacrifice, you know, this tendency we have to try to find capital in someone else's misfortune, or capital in someone else's inferiority, or capital in someone else's lack of understanding. We always want to make ourselves look somehow stronger, you know, by very devious ways, very satanic ways, actually. But we do it because we don't realize we're doing it, you know. We're doing it also, we think, for a good reason. We are being true to our cause, you know. We are being true to what we believe in. We're being true to our maslak, or to our outlook. And we sacrifice unity for that, and it's a big mistake. You know, they're not mutually exclusive. Having your own view and loving your own view and extolling your own view is not mutually exclusive with accepting others. They can work together, they can go together. And I don't know, you know, Mustafa is right. You could talk about it all day. And I don't know what the answer is. Do you have any answers? Maybe we should be looking for answers, you know, before it's too late.
It's definitely a journey, right? What do you think, Mustafa? I mean, maybe that's
Yeah.
also the point where the every fortnight recommendation of the 21st Flash.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah. You know, I remember the times when I was in America, I had the ability to meet a lot of different communities of Muslims. You know, in Turkey, we don't have that much diversity, right? But in America, you see all kinds of different types of Muslims coming all together and praying together in Juma prayer, let's say. And they have all different perspectives and understanding of Islam or their culture or way of life. And so, and I see people that are more serious in Salat than me. I see people and I feel humbled. I really feel humbled that, you know I have a good truth in my hand, Risale-i Nur, and I have ability to, you know, access Quran through that, if that's the right way to put it. And I have some understanding of Islam in my own way, and they have their own understanding of Islam in their own ways. And we all get together, pray together, and, you know, prostrate together to the same Qibla. And I sometimes feel really humbled, you know, to see those people so strong in their beliefs, so strong in what they're trying to do in their daily lives. And I may fall shorter than those people in many things. I don't know, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's Allah who knows hearts and people's practices in their houses. And we don't know who is a better Muslim or not. We don't know. Am I a better Muslim than others? I don't know. I'm trying my best, and I fall short in many things. And there's nothing to, you know, put myself or my community or my book or, you know, on, you know, in front of others. I say, I have a truth that I believe that's so strong, but, you know, at least personally, that I know that I have no right to, you know, diminish others or to see them inferior to myself, so that I don't unite with them.
The thing is, I don't think that we take it seriously enough. We don't take the enemy that we share seriously enough, because when the people of unbelief, and I know that's a very, very broad thing, when the people of unbelief unite, they don't care what the other people think or what they do in their own lives. They don't care if they're better or worse than them. Yeah, you know, they don't care. For example, if they're getting on a plane, they don't care that the pilot is an adulterer. You know, they don't care what he does in his private life. But if we hear that someone is an adulterer, we would never ever unite with them. We'd find it very, very difficult to unite with them if this person was an open adulterer. But if the guy is there to fly a plane, people will say, we don't care what he does in his private life. As long as he can fly a plane, then that's fine. You know, if he's the best pilot in the world, we'll get him and we'll use him. And if someone says, well, you know, his private life is a bit dodgy, I'll say, well, don't think about his private life, none of your business. And then that makes then they can unite, you see, because they disregard. But if we disregard things like that, we think we're disregarding, you know, gunah, we're disregarding a sin, and that's bad, you know. So we have to stop being so high and mighty in our faith, and thinking, you know, there is a phrase in English, more Catholic than the Pope. You know, we try to be always more Catholic than the Pope. And this is why we can't unite, because of our superiority complexes.
Great. Yeah, I mean, great points. I mean, it is definitely a, a point that needs lots of discussion. One insightful thing that just came from Fatab is that Ustad's letters, like for some practical information, I guess Ustad's letters, lahika letters, most of them not translated, has lots of good practical examples in terms of relationships between Muslims. They show us how to apply these principles listed in the part we are studying. So there is definitely nice. And there are lots of other good comments that came in. I'll quickly read through that because we are running short of time, and we will inshallah discuss the third cause maybe next week. I'll try to read those. A question from Harun Abi is that the footnote suggests the footnote about the Christian the cooperation with Christians suggests uniting towards or against irreligion. However, today's problem, in my understanding, is mainly not irreligion, but more with postmodernism or post-truth. Can we reconsider who to unite with against postmodernism and what it brings on our tables? Interesting question. Hussein Abi says, I guess probably about the context of the footnote. Among other things, we need to take into account the philosophical struggle during the Cold War era, 1945 to 1989. As a historian, he says these. Ustad wrote letters about the Christian-Muslim solidarity in the late 1940s and 1950s, but the idea is still valid for cooperation against immorality. Again, he wanted to give the context. And for etymology, we go to Erol Abi. Method, way, meslek. He has nice outlook versus method, or meslek versus meshrab. He gives a nice understanding. I'll inshallah share this quickly. Method or meslek is the path and processes that one follows in working toward accomplishing an objective. Every person can follow a method that best suits his disposition and character, as long as he does not fanatically reject the validity of other legitimate methods. All methods that remain within the circle of the prophetic example are legitimate. Outlook, meshrab, path, personal preferences and attitudes that affect one's choices, especially as one works toward accomplishing an objective. So meslek is more official, sounds like, but still a smaller circle. One final comment from Hussein Abi is that sacrificing minor things, issues for the sake of the benefit for the larger Muslim community. Political outlook and partisanship are some of the most difficult challenges to overcome. Constant calculation against one's own motivations and refreshing often one's intention for sincerity. I think are methods that he follows and suggests to keep things in perspective. And I already read Fatah's comment. But yeah, this was again one of the great sessions. Alhamdulillah, we discussed lots of both like root causes of these issues and some of the some of the inshallah remedies. Inshallah, next week, coming weeks, I'll try to keep the discussion on the first part a bit limited so that we have more time to ingest these remedies, because I think this is probably equally, even if not more important than the analysis part. So inshallah next week I'll try to do that, but inshallah we will continue with the third cause and rest inshallah in the coming week. Any final thoughts, Kulnabi, from you?
No, thank you. It was a very good session. If someone could put all of the chat
yes,
things into the WhatsApp group, I would appreciate it.
Inshallah, I'll
Thank you.
export
See you
them.
next week, inshallah.
Okay, Mustafa, would you like to make a dua to finish? Inshallah?
Okay, let's make our classical dua then. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. See you next week, inshallah.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you, Mustafa Jan, for your moderation. Thank you, Mustafa.
Thank you. Thank you.